Alright, I'm going to read from Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. This will be chapter 7, I think it still is. This is page 127, Entering the Wound. Frederick Buchner's father committed suicide when he was 10. He left a note to his mother: I adore and love you and am no good. Give Freddie my watch. Give Jamie my pearl pen. I give you all my love. And then he sat in the garage while running the car filled it with carbon, while the running car filled with carbon monoxide. It happened on a Saturday morning in the fall. He was to have taken Frederick and his brother to a football game that day. Instead, he took himself forever from their lives. What is a 10-year-old boy to do with such an event? A child takes life as it comes because he has no other way of taking it. The world had come to an end that Sunday morning, but each time we had moved to another place. I had seen a world come to an end, and there had always been another world to replace it. When somebody you love dies, Mark Twain said, it is like when your house burns down. It isn't for years that you realize the full extent of your loss. For me, it was longer than for most, if indeed I have realized it fully even yet. And in the meantime, the loss came to get buried so deep in me that after a time I scarcely ever took it out to look at it at all, let alone speak of it, the sacred journey. That is the way we are with our wound, especially men. We bury it deep and never take it out again. But take it out we must, or better, enter into it. I entered my wound through the surprising door of my anger. After we moved to Colorado about 11 years ago, I found myself snapping at my boys for silly things. A spilled glass of milk which would elicit a burst of rage. Whoa, John, I thought, there are things going on inside. You better have a look under the hood. As I explored my anger with the help of my dear friend Brent, I realized I was so furious about feeling all alone in a world that constantly demanded more of me than I felt able to give. Something in me felt young, like a 10-year-old boy in a man's world, but without a man's ability to come through. There was much fear beneath the surface, fear that I would fail, fear that I would be found out, and finally, fear that I was ultimately on my own. Where did all of this fear come from? I wondered. Why do I feel so alone in the world and so young inside? Why does something in my heart feel orphaned? My answer came through several movies. I was blindsided by A River Runs Through It. Through its beautiful retelling of boys who never really had their father except during their fishing trips, and how in the end they lost even that. I realized I had lost my father, and like Buchner, the loss got buried so deep in me that after a time I scarcely ever took it out. I was pierced by a perfect world because I saw there was just how much a boy's father means to him, and how I longed for that intimacy with a source of strength who loved me and could tell me my name. I so identified with Will Hunting because I too was a fighter who saw myself as up against the rest of the world, and I had also accepted my wound, never grieved it. I thought it was my fault. In some ways, God had to sneak up on me through those stories because I wasn't willing to just skip happily down the path to my heart's deepest pain. We fight this part of the journey. The whole false self is an elaborate defense against entering our wounded heart. It is a chosen blindness. Our false self stubbornly blinds each of us to the light and the truth of our emptiness and hollowness, says Manning. There are readers who even now have no idea what their wound is or even what false self arose from it. Ah, how convenient the blindness is. Blissful ignorance. But a wound unfelt is a wound unhealed. We must go in. The door may be your anger. It may be rejection that you've experienced, perhaps from a girl. It may be failure or the loss of the golden bat in the way God is thwarting your false self. It may be a simple prayer. Jesus, take me into my womb. Behold, he says, I stand at the door and knock. Cool. So we'll leave that there. That went to page 127 to page 129. That is entering the wound. See ya.